In 2013, a great American city fell to its knees and nobody came to help. $18 billion vanished, and not one banker spent a single day in prison.
I was the most powerful industrial city in all of America. Then I was left alone.
But to understand how Detroit got there, you must go back to the very beginning now.
I was the arsenal of democracy. When America needed weapons, I answered that call immediately. I turned automobile plants into tank factories overnight and helped America win the war. By 1950, I had the highest income per capita of any city in all of America. 2 million people built their entire lives inside me, and I was worth every single bit of it.
Then there was Chicago, a completely different and far more dangerous kind of American power.
I was never just a city. I was a machine that ran the entire country from the inside. I moved money, meat, grain, and politics for over 100 straight years without stopping. New York had the banks. Washington had the politicians. I had both at the same table.
I always knew what Chicago was. It never pretended to be anything other than a machine.
And I always knew what Detroit was, a city built entirely on one single assumption about itself.
I have watched both of these cities grow since 1886. I recognize the story completely. Every great American city believes it is the exception. I have never once seen one be right.
Between 1950 and 1980, Detroit lost more than half of its entire population, completely gone.
I watched my factories close one by one. Every single closure took a neighborhood completely down with it.
The automobile companies moved jobs to the suburbs, to the south, and then overseas completely.
My politicians responded by borrowing more money and hoping that nobody would ever notice this. I borrowed against my own future and told my people everything was going to be absolutely fine.
Each time the tax base shrank, the city borrowed more money, and the debt kept building quietly.
I was doing the exact same thing. I just had far better accountants helping me hide everything. My aldermen had been running pay-to-play politics for over 100 years before any of this. You want a city contract? You pay for it. A zoning variance? You pay for it. Simple as that. Both cities were running the exact same machine on the backs of the people who trusted them.
I want to ask both cities something that I think deserves a real honest answer right now. Who exactly were these financial decisions being made for? Because it was not your residents.
Oh, Chicago, do not look at me right now. Look at yourself first for once.
Detroit, I love you, but you had a mayor with 24 felony counts. 24! I am just saying.
24 counts, and he went to prison. Your people are still walking around in suits and ties completely free.
At least I kept the lights on, Detroit. Your streetlights were off in 40% of the city. 40%!
You kept the lights on with $36 billion in hidden debt. Congratulations, Chicago. Really, well done.
Hidden? Detroit, the math was public record. Your own accountants just could not read it either, apparently.
Both of you are describing public information the public was never actually told about. There is a difference.
She is right. And Chicago, you sent those documents to people who could not afford lawyers to read them.
Fine. You want to talk about residents? Detroit, you lost 140,000 households. 1 decade.
I lost them because I failed them. What is your excuse for losing 300,000 residents since 2000?
People leave expensive cities, Detroit. That is called the market. Not everything is a conspiracy, you know.
Chicago, the residents leaving are disproportionately Black residents from the South and West sides. That is not the market.
You are right. I know you are right. I have no good defense for that particular fact. Moving on now.
Moving on? Chicago, your teachers have not had a real contract without a strike since 2012. That is a fact.
Detroit, your teachers were in buildings where the roof was literally caving in on actual students. Do not come for me.
The roof caved because your financial tricks taught my politicians to skip infrastructure maintenance budgets entirely.
You do not get to blame me for your own politicians' choices, Detroit. That is a stretch, and you know it.
Actually, Detroit's first major pay-to-play scandal directly mirrored Chicago's ward system from 15 years earlier.
Thank you. I did not imagine that. Chicago, you literally exported your corruption playbook to the entire Midwest.
I did not export anything. Other cities chose to copy a system that worked. That is called influence, not export.
Chicago calling corruption influence is the most Chicago thing I have heard in 130 years.
Okay, but Chicago, you closed 50 schools in one single year. 1 year. How does that even happen?
It happened because $36 billion in unfunded pension debt means you make impossible choices. I know how it looks.
I know that trap. I lived that trap. I am still living inside that same trap right now today.
Both cities faced the same impossible math. But the impossible math was created by the same avoidable choices made deliberately.
Detroit, I want to ask you something. When your downtown started recovering, who moved in first? Be honest.
Mostly younger, whiter, wealthier residents, funded by the same banks that took our settlement money. That is the truth.
Same thing on my north side. New residents moving in, old residents pushed further south every single year.
Both cities are describing the second chapter of the same story. Debt clears the land, capital fills it.
That is the most accurate and most devastating sentence anyone has said in this entire conversation today. So what do we do about it? That is the actual question. What do two broken cities actually do now?
That is the first useful thing either of you has said since I got here. And I got here in 1886.
Chicago let us talk about your TIF deals, $2 billion in tax breaks to developers while closing schools simultaneously.
Detroit, you gave $900 million in tax breaks to Dan Gilbert for downtown development. Glass houses, friend.
That is actually a fair point. $900 million to Dan Gilbert while the east side had no lights. Fair point.
And I will say for the record, my Millennium Park cost $300 million over budget. I know.
Both of you just admitted the same thing. Public money went to marquee projects while residents went without services.
Chicago, your Olympic bid in 2009 cost the city tens of millions, while your pension fund was already underwater.
Detroit, you hosted the Super Bowl in 2006 while your water infrastructure was already corroding underground completely.
So we both threw parties we could not afford while our people ate the consequences. That is actually what happened.
That is exactly my point, Detroit, and I think deep down it is yours too. We both know what we chose.
Detroit filed for bankruptcy in 2013. Chicago avoided it only by continuing to borrow against its future again.
Chicago, you have been kicking that can since 1983. That is not financial management. That is a 40-year prayer.
At least I am still standing, Detroit. You were on your knees on a highway. I watched from across the water.
You watched me from across the water. You did not call. You did not come. What does that make you, Chicago?
It makes me a city that was too busy hiding its own crisis to acknowledge yours. And I am sorry, Detroit.
Two cities that had been rivals for over 100 years finally looked at each other and told the actual truth. The contractors who bribed Kilpatrick settled quietly. Some of them paid absolutely nothing at all.
30,000 retired city workers had their pension checks permanently cut. They did nothing wrong. Nothing.
My pension debt is still $35 billion in 2023. The number has barely moved in a decade. Barely. Not one alderman charged. Not one. Different names on the same doors every 4 years. That is all.
Detroit's recovery came, but 60% of my children still lived in poverty in 2019. 60% still.
The same banks that took settlement money came back to finance the recovery they helped create conditions for.
I want to point out something neither city mentioned. The debt created conditions for someone else entirely. When debt forces austerity, the neighborhood's empty. When they empty, the property gets cheap. Capital moves in.
I see this in my own recovery. East side's still dark while downtown glows for someone else entirely now. The south side displacement is not an accident. It is the result of 50 years of deliberate disinvestment decisions.
And now we return to that highway. Now you know everything that put Detroit there that night completely.
I did not fall because of one corrupt mayor. The whole system, the banks, the politicians, the choices built this.
I watched Detroit fall because I was standing on the same ground. I just had not fallen yet. Not yet.
Both cities were built by people who deserved far better than what they ever actually received from them.
I want to leave you with something neither of these cities brought up at all tonight. Something important. Over 30 American cities right now have pension funding levels below 50%. Right now, today, 30 cities, their residents do not know yet. Their politicians are running the exact same playbook right now. Exact same playbook.
She never tells you which city, but she does not have to. If you are watching, you probably already know.
I am still here, still fighting, but I am fighting with $35 billion of debt behind me every day.
The question has never been whether it will happen again. It is already happening in 30 cities right now, today.
And one final question for everyone watching this right now. Which city do you live in tonight?
And whether anyone will be watching when it finally hits the ground this time around for real tonight.